Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk joins us, and man, we got all kinds of stuff going on here. Mike, before we get into all the professional football stuff, do you have any ideas for college football to try to figure out how to get 12 teams, the most accurate 12 teams into the playoffs?
No.
What a mess.
And the more they expand the pool, the more arguments are going to be made by more programs for the ones who didn't make it. When it's just what was it, 4 at first, and
right.
Then I don't know. The whole thing, and it doesn't help that my beloved West Virginia Mountaineers currently are not good, so it makes me less inclined to follow it. But the whole thing is just a mess. It's chaos they've created. They've created chaos as it relates to the coaches. They've created chaos as it relates to the players. They've got different political battles under the guise of we have to save college football. We have to save college sports. That Cody Campbell was on with Pat McAfee yesterday, and I'm surprised he got that platform there because he's been against the models that the people who pay who ESPN pays a lot of money to have their games, but the customer in those cases is always right. He's been pushing against this idea of the current model and wanting to have an NFL-style thing where college football sells its rights globally because we have to save college sport. And meanwhile, you got LSU willing to pay $145 million between Brian Kelly and Lane Kiffin. So it's all PR, it's all spin, it's all bull crap. They don't like the fact that the players are getting paid. And they don't know how to manage the game. The stewards of college football don't know how to manage the sport.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into it. I don't know if you remember. I know you go on some different shows, but last week you said, hey, just a heads up, Thanksgiving, don't be surprised that Chiefs Cowboys might get $50 million. Mike, you're way off. It got $57 million. My God.
I know. I hang my head in shame. I was stunned because I saw people saying, oh, it won't get 50. And I'm like, what am I missing here? Because if the last biggest audience, 42-1 for a Giants-Cowboys game 3 years ago, where they both were good, but it doesn't resonate. That rivalry doesn't resonate like it once did. And this is the Chiefs, and the Cowboys went in, a couple in a row, and they got this new Nielsen measurement that bumps all the numbers by 10%. Like right there, you're looking at 47 if you bump it by 10%. So I thought 50 was doable. I had no idea that it would get 57. And then the early game that day, Lions-Packers got 47.
That's incredible.
So both games broke the existing record for the biggest audience for an NFL regular season game.
Boy, I'll tell you what, the Dolphins getting ready to play Steelers in a couple weeks. I never thought – I know Mike Tomlin's been, a winning coach, and I was aware of the fact he had won a playoff game now for, I think, about 10 or 11 years. But I think he's in trouble. Ben Roethlisberger and James Harrison didn't exactly go, that's our coach, bring him back. They're saying, hey, maybe it's time to move on. I think Mike could be in trouble.
The last time they won a playoff game was the last game the Chiefs played without Patrick Mahomes on the roster. The divisional round of the 2016 season. They have not won a postseason game since then. It's the longest drought for the franchise since the first time they ever won a playoff game in 1972. I think at some level, Joe, and look, at the end of the day, there's only one person who has a vote. It's the owner.
Right.
What will get the owner's attention? Will it be criticism from players like Roethlisberger and James Harrison? Or will it be when the Dolphins come to town, December 15, 10 days before Christmas? Let's say the Steelers lose on Sunday to the Ravens. They're 6-point underdogs. What if people just don't show up? And what if those who do only go so they can chant "Fire Tomlin," so that they can boo during the iconic renegade moment that typically gets the team lathered up to pull out a victory? It could be an ugly scene in 10 days in Pittsburgh. And what will it take to get Art Rooney to make a change? And there's one big factor to consider here. Art Rooney was born in 1952. The Steelers had like 6 different coaches by the time he was 16. And once they hired Chuck Noll when he was 16, they've embarked on this, what is it now, 56-year run of stability. If you pull the pin on moving on from Mike Tomlin, what happens next? Number one, who's the next coach? And number two, if he doesn't work out, are you going to give him 10 years before you acknowledge it? Like, there has to be at some level, and I think this is like psychological, deep-seated stuff, but he grew up as the grandson of the founder of a team that had always been horrible. When Chuck Noll arrived, everything changed. And I think Art Rooney has to be fearful that he's going to be the one to make it go back to the way it was. You know, they say sandals to sandals in 3 generations as it relates to money. It could be, you know, dysfunction to dysfunction in a couple of generations for the Steelers as it relates to being competitive and competing for championships.
You know, Mike, that George Pickens trade, I had no idea that thing was going to be – he was going to be this good in Dallas. He didn't have a great game last night, but overall, over 1,000 yards and 8 touchdowns. He'd been late a few times, but I'm guessing Dallas had a pretty good idea and said, don't let that affect anything. He's a frontline receiver. What a great trade. Got to give him credit.
Well, and look, the biggest factor that caught my attention when the Steelers traded for DK Metcalf, okay, this is a guy the Seahawks never properly used. And the Steelers had George Pickens, and they never properly used him. So now they're going to pay market value for the first time ever to a guy who's never played for the team before. They've never done that. They reluctantly give market value to their superstars, who they have had in the organization for years. They never just open the door and say, here's $35 million a year. And it just shows that they look at how they're using Metcalf. They're not using Metcalf. No. They're not earning he's not earning the $35 million, and it's not his fault. They're not using him the right way. But I'm troubled with Pickens last night. He seemed, and I love studying the demeanor of players. It's usually quarterbacks during games, but Pickens seemed disinterested last night. There was one play where he ran a route and he didn't really fire off the line, and the ball came to him and he didn't make the catch. And you could see afterward Dak Prescott jawed at him a little bit. They need to keep his head in the game every game. And for whatever reason, last night he wasn't his usual self. And with each game, we're getting closer and closer to, you know, the expiration of his contract. So he's got every reason to be locked in every single game as he gets closer and closer to his payday.
Mike, so the Dolphins have won 3 straight. I know you know all this stuff. I'm just going to break it down here because everybody's had to hear this for 3 weeks now. The defense playing a lot better, been stingy, got 7 takeaways in 3 games. They're playing up to a high level. Devon Achane has turned into a top 4 or 5 running back. The numbers he's put up the last 3 weeks. The kicking game's been great. The punter and the field goal kicker have been outstanding. Tua is the only thing struggling in his area of the passing. 501 yards in 3 games, 2 touchdowns, and 3 picks. And they're saying all fundamentals and footwork and his eyes and, when to slide and not. He slid a little early at the end of a game and ended up getting stopped on 4th down. I'm just curious, I don't know if this stuff's going to get any better the rest of the way. They've been able to win tight ball games. 2 of them weren't real pretty in the 4th quarter. The Tua thing, and I still believe coming back, he's our guy no matter what happens the rest of this year.
$54 million fully guaranteed next year. There's no way out of it. I think that if Mike McDaniel saves his job, and it looks like he will, even though it could get very awkward if the GM who is hired, because every GM who gets hired has in his pocket a list of names of coaches that he would hire when he becomes a GM. And if Mike McDaniel's name isn't on that list, well, we got a problem, right? And then the question becomes, when can the GM fire the coach and bring in his guy? And I'll give you the best example of it. When Bob Quinn got the GM job in Detroit, Jim Caldwell did fine, but Bob Quinn was bound and determined to hire Matt Patricia. So Caldwell got fired when he shouldn't have been fired, and in came Patricia. If McDaniel wants to save his job, he's got to be fully on board with drafting a quarterback next year and working on an alternative to Tua and committing to the idea that next year is Tua's last year, unless Tua just tears it up next year. We can't do the kid gloves anymore. We can't worry about how he's going to react. The response to the and I don't want to suggest Brian Flores did anything wrong. His style didn't work with Tua, and it created a lot of friction and problem for Tua, and that's fine. But they went the other direction and they tiptoe around Tua way too much. They picked up his 5th-year option when I didn't think they should. They gave him this massive contract when they didn't have to, when he was entering his 5th-year option. They're so worried about keeping the guy happy because they think if he's not happy, he's just going to implode. And I mean, come on. At some point, it's big boy football, and if you don't perform, you're not going to be the quarterback. And maybe if he gets that as a little bit of a red-hot poker, off he goes. So either way, you got to be developing someone else because you got to be thinking about 2027 or during 2026 making a change from Tua to a new guy.
So does this hold back if they do open up this general manager job? If they do, does this hold a guy potentially that knows he's a top-notch GM or is going to be from keeping this job down here? Could that be a reason a guy goes, I'm not doing that for a year. I don't want him around, or the guy suck it up for a year if he knows that's the situation and he can build from there?
Yeah, it's so funny when one of these jobs comes open, the people who rely upon the flow of information being handed to them by teams will say, "Oh, it's a great job. Oh, it's and you can set your clock to it. It's this is a great job. A lot of people are going to want this job, and it's just fluff. It's just crap. Look, you're going to have candidates who have options, and ask yourself this question objectively. Set aside any allegiance to the Dolphins. If I have options, and my options are, I can go to a place where I get to hire a coach, I get to find a quarterback, or there's a quarterback there who I like. Am I going to go there, or am I going to go to the place where the quarterback is part of the problem, big part of the problem? This is not a head coach I would have hired. I've got to preside over a year of whatever and hope they don't perform so well that I'm stuck beyond a year. When Jerry Angelo became, and I'm going way back here, this is a deep cut. I think if I recall correctly, when Jerry Angelo became the GM of the Bears, it was either Jerry Angelo or the next guy. Dick Duron was still the coach, and they had a really good year, and the GM was stuck with Dick Duron. Like that's the problem. So yeah, if you have options, you're not going to opt for the situation where it's an arranged marriage with the head coach. You're stuck with the quarterback for a year. I'd rather go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's
and I'd like to have the owner in the building every day too. That's another factor.
Hey, so I got to ask you, Jackson Dart. I love everybody who's going back and forth, and some radio talk show hosts were saying it was a cheap shot, and I'm screaming, going, "Are you kidding? The guy's running down the sideline. You get a chance to drill him. He's stupid for not getting out." What's your take on this old Jackson Dart thing?
Well, 5 years ago, the folks in Kansas City wanted to cancel me and or kill me because I said after the AFC Championship, which featured a play from Patrick Mahomes where he did a slow motion run through the defense, weaving, and they all were kind of like, what do we do? What do we do? We can't hit him. We can't hit him, because everybody thinks if you hit the quarterback, you're going to get a 15-yard penalty. I said after that game, hey, the 49ers need to just go hit him. And if you get penalized, you get penalized. But you can't let him run around you and through you. It's football, and when he decides to be a runner, you got to hit him. And the folks in Kansas City were up in arms, and I was saying, he's saying you should go injure Patrick Mahomes. No, I'm saying you can't worry about getting flagged. Once he becomes a runner, you got to go hit him. And that's what Christian Ellis did on Monday night. And here's the rest of that story. The team that Patrick Mahomes did the slow motion pinball routine through was the Tennessee Titans. The coach of the Tennessee Titans at the time was Mike Vrabel. So I'd say he's learned a lesson about kid gloves when it comes to quarterbacks who run. And like, Jackson Dart, like, somebody's got to sit him down and have the hard conversation with him. That extra step you gain isn't worth being out for the rest of this game and missing the next game. Tua's been there. 2010, Rex Ryan brought Joe Girardi, who was then the Yankees manager, to practice middle of the season to try to teach Mark Sanchez how to fly. It's always an issue. There's always one guy that is too competitive for his own good and won't back off and do the smart thing to keep himself healthy during the game, and has to learn how to do it.
I got news for you. He doesn't change that career. I know he called it soccer. This is not soccer. And he's trying to play the tough guy act, and that's my personality.
That bravado is good for no one. It is good for no one. Like, they got to grow up from this frat boy mentality that kind of descended on him and Scatterboo. Omar Kelly told me this on PFT Live a couple of months ago. Like, the first 3 years of a guy's career in the NFL, they don't think it's a business. Like, it's an extension of, and college football is a business now too. But for your first 3 years, it's like, this is my team, and we're playing football. And after about 3 years, you realize you're going to get chewed up and spit out, and you better take care of yourself, because nobody else is going to give a crap. You're a piece in a large football machine that is eventually going to be replaced, and they're going to pull it out, and they're going to cast it aside, and they're going to put a new piece in. And I think that Jackson Dart needs to think of it that way. Cam Scatterboo needs to think of it that way. or neither of them is going to be in the NFL for very long.
That's a great call. Hey, Mike, thank you, man. Have a great week. We got a great weekend of games. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Awesome game. Thanks, buddy.
All right, Mike Florio from Pro Football Talk. Hey, we got more stuff. Chris Perkins going to join us. We're going to talk about the Miami Dolphins and some of the young guys coming up next.